Good morning students, I am Manpreet Kaur, your SST teacher. In last class, we discussed about the periodic classification of the Indian history and the sources of Indian history. In today's class, we will be discussing about the new kings and the kingdoms that emerged in the medieval period. So without wasting much time, let's start.
Okay students, I hope it's visible to you. As I have discussed before that we are going to discuss about the new kings and kingdoms in this chapter, or we can say in this week. So many dynasties ruled over the Indian subcontinent between 700 to 1400 century. The timeline is shown below. We can also see that the different dynasties has ruled for the different period of time, but at the different parts of the countries as well. Means we can also say that they ruled at the same time in the subcontinent but at different parts of the Indian subcontinent. Here we can see that the Cholas ruled for about 800 century to 1100 century. The Gujra Pratiharas ruled from 800 century to 1100 century. These are some of the, as you can see the images, these are some of the art and architecture work done during these dynasties. Again, the next come the Palas. They ruled about from 800 century to 1200 century. Then comes the Chahmanas. They ruled from 800 century to 1400 century. Okay student, this is the map of the India in the medieval period of time. Here we can see that it shows the different kingdoms in the map. Like here we can see this is Chahamanas. Here if we see these are Cholas at the below. Here are the Palas and so on. So if we will try to locate the Gujra Pratiharas, Rashtrakutas, Palas, Cholas, so can we identify the present day states over which they exercised control? Let's try it. So as we can see the map, so we concluded that the Palas ruled over Bengal, Cholas ruled over Tamil Nadu, Rashtrakutas ruled over Maharashtra, and Chahmanas ruled over Rajasthan, and at the last Gujra Pratiharas ruled over Uttar Pradesh. So now we have looked about the new kingdoms. Let us now look about the administrative features of those new kingdoms. The new dynasties that rose to power between 800 century to 1400 century used various ways to rule and manage their kingdoms. Some of these administrative features were: kings shared their power with Samantas. As you all know that Samantas were warrior chief, or we can say uh, the title just below the king, and they also uses different resources and taxes were collected from producers like peasants, artisans, traders, etc. Now these taxes and resources were later on uses for the following purpose. As we can see in the images, these taxes and resources were used as to finance the king palaces and courts, construct temples and forts, and fight wars. Next, we are going to discuss about the Prashastis, land guard, and their reliability. Let us do. Now, there are two literary sources of history. As we know, historians examine written sources of history to learn about the past. Today, we learn about two sources of history from this time period, that is Prashasti and land guard. Now, what are Prashastis? Prashasti is a Sanskrit word. It means praise. In medieval India, authors wrote in praise of kings and their achievement. These texts were known as Prashastis. They could be manuscript or inscription. Or in simple words, we can say that the Prashastis were the written record of the praisal of the kings of that time. Then comes Who wrote these prashastis? Brahmanas often wrote prashastis in praise of the king. In exchange, the king would grant the Brahmana a plot of land. Now, record of land guards. Now, these gifts of land from kings to Brahmanas were recorded as land grants, or in simple, we can say that whatever the praise was done by the Brahmans of the king would gift them a piece of land in return, and these piece of land that was gifted to the Brahmanas was called as the land grants. Now, they could be in the form of inscription or manuscripts. They were official records from that period with details of the piece of land and the owner's name. Here you can see in the image there is a piece of land, and on the rock the inscription is done that to whom this land belongs to, and so on. Now, reliability of the sources. Now we know about prashastis and land grants. Now, are they both reliable sources of history? Let us look further. Now, prashastis were not reliable sources of information because Brahmanas made these prashastis in praise of kings. Hence, they cannot be taken completely reliable source as they were written to earn the king's favor. In return, the king would grant land to the Brahmanas. Or in simple words, we can say that if your friend is coming in the class, okay, so he is wearing very nice clothes, but you don't like it. What you will do? You don't want to hurt him, है So what you will do? You will just praise him. Oh yeah, this dress is very nice, because you don't want to hurt him. Same the Brahmanas were doing at that time also. Whether the king was nice or not, they would always say that the king was very nice or said some praiseful words for him. So we can't say that prashastis were fully reliable sources. Next, land grants are reliable sources of information because they carry information about land gifts and exchange. Now, till now we have discussed about the different features of the administrative structure of the medieval period. Let us look about the administrative structure of the Cholas. Here we can see that various bodies assisted the king in carrying out the administrature of the empire as shown in the chart below. Here we can see that there is a king who is head of the administration. Then there comes subordinates, that is Ur, who was known as the Council of Peasants. It functioned in non-Brahmanas villages and was controlled by rich and Velala peasants. Then comes the Sabha. It was also the council of Brahmanas landholders. It functioned in villages given as land grants to the Brahmanas. Then comes the Nagaram, who was also known as the council of traders for trade related activities. Now we are going to look about the accomplishments of the Cholas. Now we are here discussing about earlier we have discussed about the administrative structure of the Cholas. Now we are going to look about their accomplishments in the sector of art, architecture and agriculture. Here we can see there are 3 columns. So what the achievements of the Cholas in the sector of art? Here the Cholas built bronze sculptures which were popular in temples. Many artisans and craftsmen started making bronze sculpture. In the sector of agriculture, the Cholas were responsible for extending large-scale cultivation. Channels were used to ensure that river water reached the fields. In the case of architecture, big temples were built by Raja and the Rajendra. These temples had marketplaces also. Now we have discussed about the architecture and agriculture, but how they were useful for the ordinary people. Now people settled near temples and sold their products in the market. In the case of agriculture, Cholas constructed wells and tanks which helped ordinary people produce more crops. Tanks allowed for easy access to water for the community. In the case of architecture, the temples was a common place for the people to meet and socialize. It also it was also a place for economic activity in the community as well. Okay students, till now we have discussed about the Cholas empire. Now we are going to discuss about the establishment of the Delhi Sultanate. Now Delhi gained importance as a political center during 12th to 13th century. It was first emerged as a capital city under the Tomara dynasty and continued to remain as important seat of power during the rule. Here we can see in the timeline that the Cholas and the Gujr Pratiharas ruled from 800 to 1100 century, and later on Delhi became the capital city under the Tomras for the first time. Later on, from the 1200 to 1500 century, Delhi became the capital of the Sultanate. All the dynasties such as early Turkish rulers, Khaljis, Tughlaqs, Sayyid and Lodhis all had the Delhi as their center area, or we can say they all had the Delhi as their capital. Now let us look at the emergence of Delhi as a seat of power. Now, political centers. When kings and rulers became powerful, they established some places as important political centers. Usually, a king's capital becomes the kingdom or empire's most important political center. It means where the kings used to live, that used to become the political center. Now 6th and 11th century political centers are shown in below in the map. As you can see that Harappa, Patliputra, Kanauj, Kashmir and Mathura, all these were the most important political centers in between 6th and 11th century. Later on in the 11th century, Delhi emerged as the capital for the first time under the Tomaras. As you can see in the map, the Delhi location is given. So from here 130 century to 1145 century, Delhi became the capital of the Tomaras. Even today, Delhi remains an most important political center. It is the capital of India. Important government buildings such as Parliament and President and the Prime Minister's residence are in the Delhi. The picture shows the Rashtrapati Bhavan in Delhi. So all the important buildings are there in the Delhi. Now Delhi as a center of power. Thus we see that Delhi was most important seat of power throughout a large part of Indian history. It emerged as a political center in the 11th century. It was the most important political center during the Sultanate period, and at last it is an important political center even in the 21st century.
Okay students, I hope that all your doubts regarding this chapter, the new kings and the kingdoms, have been solved. And if any doubts, you can contact me personally, and hope we will meet next time on next Saturday. Thank you and have a nice day.